Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this election security press conference, updating the public as to the measures the City of Green Bay has taken to make this upcoming election and future elections safe and secure. So in the last couple of months, key city and county staff conducted a tabletop exercise with Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security Agency. From that meeting, we created successful security strategies for Election Day. Clerk staff also trained with Green Bay Metro Fire Department to identify suspicious mail and hazardous materials and what we would need to do in order to protect ourselves. We have created a new emergency plan for Election Day, and I will disseminate that plan to all of our chief inspectors. Those are the people who are in charge of the wards on Election Day. Also on Election Day, the city will host an incident command, both in person and virtual. This is something we've been doing since April, actually, also to basically very effectively and accurately, with many wise heads in the room, respond to any emergency that would occur on Election Day. We also trained our poll workers in situational awareness, and this training was done by a representative of CISA, which is Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security Agency. I do want to point out to the public that Jefferson Street will be closed on Election Day. This is a map of the closure. The closure will occur essentially from the south driveway of City Hall, essentially where the federal post office boxes are and the drop box, all the way to the intersection of Walnut and Jefferson. We will have staff members, PD staff, at the Pine Street ramp, and I believe also at Cherry Street, to direct traffic for that Jefferson Street closure. The buses will also be rerouted. There is one bus on Jefferson, I believe. We've also made some security improvements to the building. You may have seen people coming in to vote, certainly members of the media, that there is an employee entrance now and a public entrance. The employee entrance is on the west side of the building. It's the entrance with the stairs. The entrance for the public is on the east side, I'm sorry, the other way around. The employee entrance is on the east side of the building, the public entrance is on the west side of the building, and that is actually the ADA accessible door, so I always encourage, especially voters, to use that Jefferson Street entrance. But of course now, as I said, the parking lot door, or the east side entrance, is closed. We've also removed the bushes in front of City Hall, and for those of you who love landscaping, as do I, we will refresh our landscaping plan in the spring. I want people to be aware that the closure on Jefferson Street begins on Election Day morning. Also, to make the public aware, we've made our council aware that City Hall has some very important closures on Election Day. We've been doing this for several election cycles. Voters always have access to the building from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in order to drop off their ballots. This is by state law, and of course this is what is appropriate because absentee ballots must be returned to City Hall. They can, if any voter wants to return their ballot on Election Day to City Hall, you can park in the hooded meters in our parking lot. You can also use the drop box, which has a chute for drive-up accents. I'm sorry, let me rephrase. The drop box will be closed at 7 a.m. on Election Day. So anyone who wants to return a ballot on Election Day, and please do return your ballots to City Hall on Election Day, not to your polling location. You will need to park in the parking lot and walk your ballot in. All other city business, the city doesn't stop because we have an election. Parking tickets, building permits, park rentals, all that other business will need to take place during regular City Hall hours, which are 8 o'clock to 4:30. Anyone who's in the building who is not there for either returning a ballot or going to central count will need to vacate the building at 4:30. Central count workers, of course, and observers have access to the building and to the first floor only from 7 a.m. until the conclusion of central count. And I would just encourage people to park on Cherry Street or Adams Street and certainly use our two parking lots at Pine Street and Adams and Cherry. I want to also let the public know that it's been a really busy and wonderful election season. The clerk's office will be open only for election-related business on November 4th and November 5th. We will be closed entirely to the public on November 6th, and I'll post that on our website and then also on the doors. Part of being safe on election day is also for voters to understand what their rights are. If you have any safety concerns as a voter, I encourage you to reach out to the Elections Commission at 608-261-2028. You can also find them at elections@wi.gov. Electioneering, which is the attempt to influence someone's vote, is illegal. And please just be aware of that. And influencing someone else's vote can be with words or materials. I also want to make the public aware that I have heard from some voters, actually, that there are flyers and texts to voters. Please know that I do not have the capacity to text any voter. Any communication coming from my office comes either via a letter or an email if a voter has provided the voter's email address to us, or telephone if the voter has provided a phone number for us. Any written material, whether it's an email or whether it's by US mail, always has the city logo on it. So if you don't see the city logo, it's not an official letter from me, it didn't come from me, and it didn't come from the WEC either. And so just be aware that there are third-party entities reaching out to voters. They certainly are free to do so. But obviously, if you have any questions or concerns, I would definitely keep that Wisconsin Elections Commission number handy. And our number is easier to remember, which is 448-3010. In terms of reporting results on Election Day, presidential elections are very busy. Lots of people are very excited to participate. So far, up until Monday, we had 4,200 in-person votes in Green Bay. So that's very robust. I do report our numbers on our website. But, I just want everyone to be aware that my responsibility as the clerk, and every clerk's responsibility in the state of Wisconsin, and quite frankly all across the United States, is to report to their entities, for me it's the county, results that are accurate and complete. And so that is my focus. Of course I do it with all due speed, but accuracy and completeness are first and foremost for me as the clerk. I do want to let the public know that I have sped up some of our processes to get those results as quickly as possible. I do have sticks delivered directly to the county instead of to me, and then we also have a police escort for the central count sticks to be delivered to the county. When I say sticks, I mean the USB medium that go inside the DS200, which is the machine that voters will see at polls. It's the same type of medium that goes into the DS450, which is the machine that we use at central count. In conclusion, we are a tight-knit community where people know each other and take care of each other. By providing a comprehensive election security strategy, we are keeping voters, poll workers, and the general public safe. Thank you, and I'll take your questions.
So have things amped up security-wise over the last few years? I mean, so are some of these measures almost unprecedented?
So I became a clerk in 2021, and so my clerk world is a world where security is paramount. In talking to other clerks here in Brown County and across the United States, other clerks have taken these very similar measures. For instance, in LA, they have a helipad at their tabulation facility. That's how secure it is. So this is what we do. This is what's important to keep people safe, to give people confidence that we're keeping them safe and that we're keeping our election materials safe. So there are many election materials, not just ballots, not just sticks, so that we're keeping all those things safe, again, so that we can report accurate, complete results.
We'll talk a little bit more about the training that the poll workers have gone through. I know when we were here on Monday, there was a poll worker here who said he's not worried about the machines and their ability to do their job and accurate, but he is a bit concerned about security and safety and people
Right. So, Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security Agency, which is a mouthful, CISA, they did a training with us, the poll workers, on situational awareness. And just like many other workers in many types of situations, workers need to be just aware of who is there. And of course, as a polling location, all eligible voters are welcome, right? You don't have to register ahead of time in the state of Wisconsin in order to vote on election day. And so it's just really important to be aware of who's there, keep everyone safe, be welcoming, calm, warm, informative, but also secure and organized. So I think that the poll workers do feel a little bit more confident, and I really do focus a lot on the chief inspectors, again, the people who are in charge of the polling locations. They're the ones with the most training and in many ways a lot of experience. But also, not to let things slide. Our police department and our Green Bay Metro Fire Department are also very much aware of where our polling locations are and how to get in touch with each chief inspector at that ward.
So, can you talk a little bit about, I guess what was in that emergency planning that you guys did with local agencies? And without getting into operational security, obviously,
Right.
Can you talk about kind of the contingencies and the issues that you guys went over and share as much detail as you can about what type of planning went on with local law enforcement?
Sure, absolutely. Nathan, thank you. So it was a day where we conducted a tabletop exercise. So we had done this 2 years ago, but not nearly to the depth and breadth that we had done it in mid-September. And essentially with our leader from CISA, he constructed ever complicating, ever more dangerous scenarios for us to decide, okay, what do we do? How do we communicate? How do we make things safe? How do we keep the election secure? And so in those ever complicating and more dangerous scenarios, we were able to really very comprehensively construct our plans for election day. We were already kind of going there, but that really solidified our understanding of where our vulnerabilities were and where our strengths were, and so we have acted accordingly.
Gotcha. Do you know what the threat assessment is for Green Bay at this point? I mean,
That is a question for the police department.
Gotcha.
Celestine, what
Yes.
is your biggest worry or concern going into election day?
Well, as the election administrator, I always want to make sure that the poll workers have all the materials that they need. It's a lot of packing up, so that seems they may seem very, non-security focused, but when I think, okay, they've got to have everything because, it's just a scramble to get them things. So that's always in the front of my mind, to make sure they have what they need. And quite frankly, when the poll workers and the chief inspectors have all the materials that they need in the way that they expect them, that calms them, makes them less anxious, so that they can focus on the situation, the atmosphere of the polling location, which is where I want their focus to be. I have extreme, deep respect and confidence in our police department and in our Green Bay Metro Fire Department. They have been remarkable, exceptional, wonderful. And, I hope that every clerk in the United States has as great a relationship with their chiefs as I do. So I feel that I can give up some of my anxieties about safety to the people who actually know how to keep us safe, really and truly. I'm just the vessel here because they are deeply knowledgeable and they are ready to do whatever needs to be done.
You mentioned with that security training that you guys did, you got to learn what are your strengths, what were your weaknesses. Were you surprised by any of the vulnerabilities that you guys found?
Yes, there was one thing that surprised us, which I will not share. But yes, there was one. But we, in learning about that vulnerability, we made adjustments so that we are no longer vulnerable.
Celestine, two-part question. One, have you had security in the building before? I noticed that before, and I don't know if that was normal or not.
Mhm.
Second thing is, what's your expectation for election day? In I guess a very broad sense.
So I'll get to your first question first. So we do have private security guards who are now at City Hall. Their role is, again, to be situationally aware and to respond to any person in the building who may need another hand before we call the police. So that is one thing. I will say, though, on election day, we do have police officers in the building at Central Count, also in my office. And then when City Hall closes, we'll have two police officers at what I call the T intersection. So that is essentially just north of the Welcome Center inside City Hall. So we'll have 2 police officers stationed there. So the security guard is there, every day. But then the police presence is really for law enforcement. And now your second question, Nathan, about what do I expect for Election Day, please be more specific.
I guess, are you expecting, is this a case of expecting things to go well and preparing for the worst? Or is this going to be, for lack of a better word, potentially a bumpy election compared to what you've seen in the past?
So I think it's always important to prepare for every eventuality. And as our chief likes to say, this is what you pay me for. So there are people who know how to think about those, doomsday, those uncomfortable scenarios so that we can plan for it. Honestly, this is Wisconsin. We could have snowpocalypse on November 5th, and so we're prepared. What do we do if there's a massive dump of snow? I was very impressed by a phone call that I had participated on with about a year ago with the clerk from Miami. They always have hurricanes during elections. It's November. So I was so impressed how they're able to quickly respond to something that they can predict. We're going to have a hurricane. Of course, they can't predict the strength and the breadth of that hurricane. And so I think that is a great illustration of how best to be prepared. Okay, so we can imagine and posit these types of scenarios. We're going to prepare, and then in that way we can be prepared for the things that we don't quite see. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your